Hello and welcome to New Jersey Wedding Podcast. We thank you for joining us today. So Celia and I have a guest today, another professional wedding officiant, Michael Yell. He's been on here before, and we're happy to have him back. He's one of the officiants with New Jersey Vows now. And how are you guys doing, Celia and Michael?
Well, it's early, so it's not like a million degrees yet. So it's like it's a good time to give people random advice, I think. And
Right.
then, we should warn people that it's just going to be like whatever floats by our brains. It's like, oh, remember that one? Yeah, that's what it's like.
And now that they
Yeah.
know I'm here, they've already tuned out.
Yeah,
So
it's like, oh God, not him. It's like,
No, so we thought that we would give our advice to our biggest advice right now to couples planning their wedding. Should I go first, or one of you want to go first, or
and we could subtitle this "How Not to Sabotage Your Own Wedding," and we have
that's
that we
true.
have that in the Pikes too as one of our podcasts coming up. But so much of this advice comes right down to like you have control over this.
Right, right. And it's from our years of experience, our
Right,
14
our
plus
collective
years.
like 60 years of experience combined. I mean, it's pretty impressive, you know.
All
Yeah,
right.
go ahead,
I'll
you start. Okay,
I'll
go ahead.
start. I
Okay.
have two things. And the the first one is the groom and the groomsmen. I mean, the bride and bridesmaids don't usually have
Don't usually,
pockets,
no, they don't usually.
but if you do, if you're wearing slacks, take your cell phone out of your pocket, and not just because you don't want it to ring. Not just, I know you have it on silent or you've turned it off. It looks terrible in your pocket. We
Yeah.
all see this giant phone in your pocket, and it's terrible for pictures. It just looks bad. Why do you need it on you during the ceremony? You can leave it in the bridal suite or the getting ready suite or anywhere, really. You traditionally have an area to keep it. If not, give it to a friend, give it to your spouse or
So
somebody. Hold it for me. I'm in pictures, and you're standing up there at the front of the ceremony. It just looks
it's
terrible.
terrible. You know what? I worked with Anthony Zaccardi's team on Saturday night, and the photographer that was, I think his name is Danny, I'm not sure. And the photographer literally frisked everybody, and the best man had like a gym bag. He had all the phones in the gym bag, and they locked him in the bridal suite. It's
Yeah,
like,
and
I'm taking everybody's phones, then
good,
having them.
good for
Yeah.
him, good for him, because if you're the groom in this situation, you are paying a lot of money for these pictures. You want
Yeah.
pictures with you got your car keys in there, your phone, just
No.
clean out your pockets. And then my second one is, don't get drunk before your ceremony or before your wedding. I know it's tradition for the girls, and I'm not saying anything about this, to have champagne while you're getting your hair and makeup done. That's great. That's fun. The guys will often have a shot before the ceremony, things like that. That's normal. But don't get drunk before you've ruined it now. You're drunk. And then you're going into a reception again that you've paid for with 4 hours or more of an open bar. And what a way to ruin your ceremony or your whole wedding to get wasted before it even begins.
I
And
did.
there is a side thing to that if you are so out of it, we can't
We
legally
can't
marry you.
marry you. Didn't you do one where the groom didn't even show up for his elopement because he was
yeah,
like,
yeah, he was out with a friend. Uh, and I'll use that term. I'm not exactly sure if it was a friend, but maybe a friend.
this is
Somebody
my
trying to say
friend
that.
Jack Daniels.
Oh my God. Yeah,
And
yeah.
I've shown up at a wedding and it was at a beautiful, elegant, expensive venue. And as I pull up, I see a guy in the in a tux and stuff, and he's throwing up in a planter. And I said to myself, "Oh my goodness, is that my groom?" And it wasn't my groom; it was the best man. So, like, if you're in the wedding party, chill out a little, have a couple of shots, maybe but wait until the reception.
Where's the photographer when you need him? You know,
Well,
that's what I want.
the other thing too is I find that and luckily I haven't had it happen that often. I don't think, we haven't seen it a lot, but nevertheless, we still experience it. If somebody gets drunk, they want to be like the life of the party during the ceremony.
Right.
And they start interjecting and they start trying to be funny. And if it's like one of the groomsmen or a best man, then all of a sudden, like I've in larger settings where I'm including a story about the couple, the best man or whomever wants to add all of these little snippets, and it's distracting, and it's flat out
It's
disrespectful.
disrespectful.
It's
And
disrespectful.
it's
Yeah.
disrespectful no matter what. And if a groom does it,
Oh,
or a bride happens to be, how
God.
disrespectful is that for your would-be spouse? I mean,
Well, and the parents too, like that front row. I understand
yeah,
about the front.
what are
You
they
should-
thinking?
You shouldn't need a bouncer for the wedding ceremony. I
Just
mean,
wrote a giant check, and now this guy's hammered. It's not exactly the setting you want to have for as a backdrop. So yeah,
no, I think that's
good point.
I
And
like it.
I
Well,
did.
those- Oh,
No,
go
I had a wedding that we were doing the tequila sharing because we're
Right.
like notoriously bad influences, but not to the extent, like not before, and the groom had kind of sneakily asked me for, the tequila sharing comes at the end of the ceremony. It basically is 2 shots of tequila. We've talked about this before. And
Right.
the groom is like, can we substitute water for that? Because I promised her that I wouldn't have anything to drink until the reception. I'm like, yeah, we can do that. So the bride didn't know anything about this. And when she picked up her shot, she basically got a warm shot of water with salt and lime in it. It was like, and she just looked at me like, what the hell is this? It's like, I'll tell you later.
Yeah, what kind of a
I think
sharing?
at that point it's okay to have the shot,
Yeah,
but
I think so
yeah,
too.
but I get it. I get it. That's really kind of sweet of him.
Yeah,
Sticking
it
to
was
his
very sweet.
promise.
Well, and there's another practical side to this too. If you're the groom and you're going to be kissing this other person, and you're like liquored up, there's a certain ugh, quality
It's
to
the
that
egg
too.
factory. Yeah, that's
You know, she goes in for that first kiss while the officiant's getting out of the way, and it's like, yo, I want to follow through with this.
As professional officiants, we do step out of the way when a drunken kiss is going to happen at the end of
Or any other one for that matter.
I just think you're really, really going to regret getting super wasted
Yeah,
before the event even begins. I think that will turn out to be quite a regret, especially when you've spent so much money. And I think the same thing for the phone. You see those pictures. It's just why didn't I think to take the phone out? So, I know the photographers can work their magic, but I don't know how well they can. So tell me your advice.
I think Michael's late story has to be next. It does.
All right. So I several years ago, I did a wedding at one of our favorite venues. And it's a venue that has lodging, and it also has a restaurant that's part of the same building where there's a separate venue, but all in the same building, venue for, events, etc. So it was a relatively small wedding. It was like 60 people. It was on a Father's Day. The restaurant was very busy because of that. I think the intended start time was supposed to have been around, I don't know, noon or 1 o'clock, something like that. Bride was all set. She wanted to be outside. Chairs were set up, etc. Well, the bride who stayed at this venue the night before was an hour late for her own wedding. I remember the maitre d' at the time pacing the parking lot. He was actually talking to himself.
Oh my God.
I mean, I felt so bad for him. In that time, the weather changed,
Just the
and they
clouds
had a
rolled in.
window. They had a window, and these days we look on our cell phones, we're looking at radar, we're doing this. Oh,
Right.
we've got 20 minutes if we start now. So by the time she got to where we were going to be for the ceremony, an hour late, the weather changed. The staff who had already set up, they weren't going to do a cocktail hour, as I recall. So they had already set up the banquet room. They had to flip the banquet room, move all the tables, set it up as a ceremony space because we couldn't be outside any longer. And so then they had to reset that room afterwards. And because they didn't have a cocktail hour, and because of the setup of the actual place with a busy restaurant, etc., they had no real places for the guests to go right after the ceremony. So it would really put a strain on the venue. But the other thing that people don't think about when they're late for their wedding, and this can even be 10 minutes, is the cost involved.
Oh my gosh.
When
Yeah.
you're an hour late for your wedding, or you're 10 minutes late, or a half, whatever it is, the venue is not going to say, well, you were 10 minutes late, so just stick around. It's like if you're done at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you're done at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So you've just taken that $35,000 or whatever you've spent, and you've peeled off a part of that
Yeah.
and just thrown it down the drain. And
Exactly.
people don't remember, they don't think about these
Yeah.
things. So that's in a larger setting. In a smaller setting, we've all done elopement ceremonies where people have been late. And if you're doing an elopement ceremony this time of the year and people are, not waiting in their cars, I do many in a cute little park in Hawthorne, New Jersey, next town from where I am. Um, people are waiting outside for you in weather like this. I mean, very often, yeah, they're going to sit in their cars until they know everybody's there and run the air conditioning. So environmentally, that's probably not a great thing. We can think of it from that point of view. But it's a problem. It's people's time. It's our time waiting around for somebody. It's guests who have been waiting around, thinking they're going to start an elopement at 5 o'clock in the evening. And all of a sudden, somebody, lo and behold, who would know in New Jersey, oh, there's traffic, so I'm going to be 45
Like,
minutes
no
late.
kidding.
I mean, you have to plan for these things. And it's really, and we talked about disrespect, somebody getting drunk at a wedding. Well, it's disrespectful to everybody when you're really late for a wedding. That goes for guests, that goes for the couple, it goes for anyone involved. If you're a photographer and you're being paid for 2 hours of photography
Right.
with a couple in a small setting, and you're an hour late, well, in that case, you can't charge them for 2 hours. And besides the fact, what are they doing for the first hour? When a shooter gets there, they just start in right away. They hit the ground running,
Mhm.
and it's 2 hours.
Yeah.
Right. Especially, these
So
small ceremonies, it puts us all in an awkward situation. You're an hour late, and we almost always have a late fee. And now the photographer, like you said, who was you know, uh, arranged for 2 hours, what do? They're gonna charge them for an extra hour or only take an
right,
hour of photos. Now you have
right.
to address the subject.
You know
And
what?
oh, I hate that
It,
situation. But
yeah.
it's our livelihood. And if you were asked, or if the couple was asked to work overtime, they're gonna want overtime, pay. And
Well, what they don't realize too, especially with, our elopements and our smaller things, which, we basically love them. But, and in my contract, it says we maybe we can't wait for you.
we might not
Michael
need
did one a couple weeks ago that, like, I think we broke his all-time record for being like sitting in his shorts at his desk to being standing in his suit in the park. I think it was like 22 minutes. It was like fantastic. But this couple, I got a call and they're like, we're in our car. When can we get married? It's like they're in their car with their stuff and their witnesses and everything. Well, they were like late for their first officiant and he had to leave. It's not,
Understandable.
and you feel terrible about it, but especially with you at the shore at this time of year, there's days I know that you have 3 or 4 elopements or, smaller things on a day. It's like somebody being late by a half an hour or God, an hour. It's like that just, it can't happen, and
Right.
I think we all approach these conversations with, there, don't make your own life miserable. It's not us that's making your life miserable. It's your own planning. And, take a minute to think about that.
You know what? There's another part of this, just the human side of this for us. When somebody is all of a sudden, well, we're running late, and I've had that countless times. Um, how late? And when it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, even 15 minutes, one thing.
Yeah.
At a venue, it costs you a lot of money. But I mean, for
Yeah.
me, if it's an elopement or something, okay, 15 minutes is fine. But if somebody's like an hour late, honestly, I'm not real happy when I get there.
Yes, it's true.
Right.
I'm not happy. You know what?
We're all
You
grumpy.
don't piss off your vendors.
Yeah.
I was thinking that, Michael, when you said now the venue had to, when with the bride that was an
Well,
hour late, like the
how
whole
happy were
crew had
they?
to switch from outdoors
Right.
to indoors and wiping off they had to basically set up the ceremony space twice.
Again.
These are
That's
not,
right.
they're not happy with you. They're, and
No, because it's
everybody's
got to be
upset.
done, it's got to be done in record time. Because now all of
Right.
a sudden, someone shows up who's been really late, and now it's like, oh, well, I'm here. We can get started. Well, guess
No, we
what?
can't.
You've got a staff now that you put a strain on, and they're moving as fast as they can,
Yeah.
and then right afterwards, they have to do it again. And as I said, in this particular venue, they really didn't have a place for everybody to hang out. They didn't have a
Yeah.
cocktail hour planned or anything like that. So, they probably had to wait. I don't know where they waited. I just,
Just
at that
they
point,
they went
I'd been
somewhere.
there a lot. I'd been there over an hour longer than I was supposed to be there. And, and honestly, it was time to head to my car. So we don't want to go into a ceremony where we're not exactly happy with somebody because of their behavior. And I mean, people will say all the time, well, I guess it's a wedding, this and
No,
that.
no, no, no.
You know what? I don't buy that. I
No,
don't buy
exactly.
that. And especially if it's costing you, or if your parents paid for your wedding, if it's cost someone literally $10,000 because you were late. I mean, we do
Yeah.
weddings that are very, very expensive, and 10 minutes, 20 minutes, really, the cash register, I'm sounding like I'm
The
400
meter
years
is
old. It
running.
goes around and around, and you're talking thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. You
anyway,
don't get that time up. Nobody's going to
you
come
make
up
it
and
up.
say to you, our whole
No,
staff is going to stay
They're
an
just gonna stay.
no,
hour
they're not.
later for you, but
No,
no extra charge. No, they're
no, you're not
not.
going to hear that. You're not going to
No,
hear
you're
that.
not. And the thing is, these are things that are in the contracts that
Yeah.
people sign, but we know that nobody reads their contracts. We know that.
Right.
And and most of this stuff is preventable. I mean, I think I've been doing this for 15 years. I think I've only been late to a wedding once. And it was before cell phones, I think, but like apple picking festival, Warwick, New York. Do not schedule your wedding during apple picking festival because nobody can get. I was 3 hours late. And when I got to the wedding, there were about 6 people there. Like
Oh, no. Everybody
everybody
was
was
late.
somewhere in upstate New York trying to figure out how the hell to get to this place. But most of this is presentable. Actually, this kind of feeds into, what I was going to talk about, which is to, build in extra time into your
Right.
day. You
Right.
don't want to be like we all have had these timelines that come from usually somebody's friend who thinks they're a planner. They planned their own wedding and now they're going to plan yours. It's like run like the wind. It's 7:32, this happens. 7:36, this happens. It doesn't happen that way. You need to have a timeline, and good planners will keep you basically to it. But you have to have some downtime in there, if for no other reason, so you can get a glass of water and sit down and really think about what's going on.
Right. Enjoy your day. Be
Enjoy the
present in the
day.
moment, not
Yeah.
frantic. Be present. That's, yeah.
I mean, most of our places, a lot of our places now are building in these beautiful bridal suites with the, hair and makeup chairs. And, a lot of them are offering the option to be there like all day with
Yeah,
your,
that's a nice
like, I
thing.
know Rock Island does, I know Bear Brook does. They do one wedding a day. You can come in with your wedding party. You can arrange for food. They have lawn games. You can hang out. Then
You
you
probably
get
get your hair cut if you want
you
to.
could probably get your hair, then no.
Maybe your oil change.
Yeah.
Oil changes. That's my new
Oh, what a great
monetization.
favor that would be, wouldn't it? It's like we have
Yeah, you
an
could get
oil
your oil
change
changed out in the
station.
parking lot. That would drive right over here. Here, the valet.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that would be like, oh, I kind of like that.
You know what? Somebody's going to do that.
Somebody is going to
Somebody's
do
going to
it.
listen to this podcast. One of the millions of followers is going to listen to this, and they're going to say, "Hey, light bulb. There we go."
It's a great idea. Getting your haircut between the cocktail hour and the reception
Yeah,
isn't enough.
What are we going to think of by the end of the week? It's
Yeah.
only Tuesday.
I know. We have lots of things going on.
We'll have a tattoo artist at this section.
Oh,
Oh, I
doing
know.
permanent tattoos.
Oh,
Somebody,
God.
you can get your hair done here and.
Yeah, but there was just a an article about that a lot of Gen Zers or whatever are having tattoo regret now. And
Really?
that's not fun. I don't imagine that's fun.
Yeah.
Laser treatment and all that. Anyway, we're far
Now
afield.
we're
so-
now we're detouring into the personal services area.
Yeah, personal services, please.
You know what I also wanted to talk about was we talk about this pretty much every week about picking pros that will act like a team to make your life easier on that day. And it seems like I've spoken to people recently that are planning from far away, and in a lot of cases their first stop is the preferred list from either their venue or many of our other pro partners have their own preferred lists. We have one with all the people that we've interviewed on the podcast. So, if you listen to it and you thought, oh, there is that great guitar player, I don't know who that was. Well, if you go to our preferred list, you're going to find them.
Right.
And, in most cases, those lists are a great place to start, especially for people like photographers who then they know every nook and cranny of these venues. I look at Perona's Instagram like pretty much every day, and as many times as I've been there, every once in a while there is a picture that I can't figure out where they took it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really a big benefit to having, you looked at somebody's portfolio and you love their pictures. Well, if you get somebody that's on the preferred list, the odds are they can recreate that for you if that's what you want.
Right.
But
They know
also,
that
people
brownie.
like musicians, and DJs, like, where is the ceremony site? Where is the reception? What equipment do we need to bring? Is the place are they providing sound? It's just in so many cases, especially with some of our more unique venues where the ceremony space may be in a field away from the building or in a tent someplace or in another area than a room right next to the banquet room. There's logistical concerns that, if your vendors know about those things in advance, it lets us all do our jobs in an easier way. It's because we know all the mechanics are going to be taken care of. That's all I have to say
Yeah.
about preferred
Yeah.
lists.
So that's our advice for today.
Random
is,
advice.
and I think it's a lot of it is be present.
Yeah.
Be present and mindful. You want to be present for your ceremony and the reception.
Yeah.
So don't get overly drunk,
Overly festive.
or wasted. Be on time so that you can be present and not stressed out and not lose money. And like you were saying with the timeline, you want to be
Be
enjoy
realistic.
your day.
Yeah. Well, and the thing too is, like, pick really good pros. I talked to somebody last night, and I always ask who else they're using because we're usually one of the last pros that are put in place. And you pick really good people and let them do their thing. Don't have your bridesmaid telling the photographer what to take pictures of. And like just let them do their thing. That's why you pick them.
Yeah.
And, it's just because you don't have to that can be off your brain. If you pick great people and you trust them and communicate with them along the way. You don't just book them and then see them on the day. We all function better, I think, when we have more knowledge about what the expectations are of our couples.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll end with my last bit of advice that just popped into my head. Groom and groomsmen, be careful when hugging people when they arrive with your boutonniere.
I'm gonna get
Yeah,
squashed.
right.
You know?
But
And those
you
people who are
want
trying to
that-
kiss you.
You want that to still be intact for your ceremony. I could
And
see it being
probably
gone halfway through
no one wants to get stuck with thistles either.
Well, yeah, Aunt Mary's gonna totter over to you and kiss you right on the cheek with that like tangy orange lipstick. Mwah! So-
Well, yeah, the other thing too is like if someone has makeup on or whatever, it can
Yeah.
come off if you're wearing a dark suit.
Yep.
If you're wearing a tuxedo, something like that, you're gonna have a mark on one of your shoulders
That's
for
right. Or you could
people
just
hugging
elope.
you.
That gets rid of all that. There's no problem there.
Yeah.
Be careful with before all the pictures are done and the ceremony is done. Be careful with all that hugging for the makeup. You don't want to smush your boutonniere, and some flowers are more delicate than others, so they'll be
A lot,
hanging off to the side.
a lot of our florists that we work with actually do send 2 boutonnieres.
Yes, you got the backup.
You get the backup in I've never seen a backup bouquet. That would be kind of expensive, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't that flower lapel thing with like the whole lapel being covered with flowers. No, don't.
You know what? But that actually, there was one little thing. Second bouquet. This kind of weather, if you're taking a lot of photographs
Oh, yeah.
outdoors, it's so hot that if you're a bride and you're carrying a bouquet and you're doing photographs with that for a couple of hours outside, that bouquet is probably not going to look all that great when you walk up the aisle
Yeah.
during your ceremony. So
Totally.
you might actually want to think about a second bouquet, one for your actual ceremony
Yep.
and one for the photographs, because there's nothing more sad than brown flowers in a bride's hand. It's like, wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea, because in this heat, it's bad. And it's not like the bride can constantly be putting it in water and then picking it up,
No.
because it's dripping all over you. That's
No, and if
interesting.
you're, like at a golf course, or you're somewhere really out in the open doing photographs, I mean, it's hard enough to keep yourself looking fresh, you know? So, you're going to go back into the bridal suite or whatever. You're going to hopefully have some time between pictures finished
Yeah.
and ceremony start, so that you can spruce up. Your makeup people can do their magic and whatever like that. But your flowers, once they're wilted, you can't do anything
They're
about it.
gone.
And so that's in your photographs. If they're like brown and the edges are flopped over, and in this weather, it doesn't take long for anything. I know, going to the park every day with the giant poodle here, I wilt, and both of us wilt pretty quickly. So anyway,
Yeah. And when you talk about bouquets, every once in a while, photographers, or a lot of times photographers, will tell the bridesmaid and the bride, but I've seen it where they don't tell them how to hold them. You don't hold them up
Yeah.
and down. You hold it kind of slightly facing out. So the pictures are,
Yeah.
if you're holding it, you
Yeah.
don't hold it up and down, slightly out. There's a little tip.
There you
All
there you go.
right.
I know. We're just full of them, aren't
Things
we?
we
Yeah.
see. Yeah, but things we see because we've done thousands of weddings.
Yeah.
Right, right. Well, I like this, talking about, giving tips. So let's do it again sometime. Thank you everyone for joining us today. And if you have any tips, if you are a previous bride or groom and would like to give your advice or your tips, leave us a message on our social media. It is all New Jersey Wedding Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. We also have a website, New Jersey Wedding Podcast, and we have a comment form. So you can give your advice and we will read it on the next podcast. And
That's right. Just
don't
keep it
worry.
clean, okay?
Yeah,
Keep it clean.
don't worry. We don't give out names or emails or anything. We will just read your advice or share your story. So thanks
Sounds
for
like a plan.
joining us today.
Okay. Bye-bye now.
Excellent.
Bye.
Bye.
You're engaged. That is just great. But right after that excitement, stress can sneak in like a surprise RSVP. Traditional weddings are beautiful, but they can also be expensive and complicated and, frankly, a little overwhelming. What if your wedding could be everything you dream of, minus the drama? At NJ Vows Now, we believe your special day should reflect your unique love story, not some outdated list of rules. You can have all the wedding and none of the stress. We have sweet little parks and pretty gardens from the Hudson River to the Jersey Shore to the lush forests of the North and the West. We'll connect you with a curated network of amazing vendors who will understand your vision and respect your budget. We're all passionate, professional, dedicated to making your wedding a relaxed, unforgettable experience. Yes, you still need a license, but we can help you with that too. It's fast, it's easy, and you can still throw a big party later if you want. Doesn't that sound great? Of course it does. So just ditch the drama, vow to be different, and reach out to us at njvowsnow.com. We will have the confetti cannons ready.
This podcast is brought to you by New Jersey wedding officiant Andrea Pertel, owner of For This Joyous Occasion Officiating Services.
And Celia Milton, owner of NJ Vows Now, also New Jersey wedding officiating services. We're up in North Jersey, and Andrea is down in Central and South Jersey. So together we cover the whole state, don't we?
Yes, yes.